More minutes and then we can start.
Do I have the authorization to share my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
You should be able to share screen right now.
Okay, let me check it.
More minutes and then we can start.
Yes, I am. Okay. Do I have the authorization to share my screen? But I'm not going to share it from now, okay? Thanks. Who's going to make the questions?
I will be the one.
Okay, perfect.
You should be able to share screen right now.
Yes, I am.
So it's live on YouTube as well.
Yes.
How many people do you have?
I believe we have more than 200
Perfect.
for the registration. And they're coming one by one.
I'm sorry, we had an issue with the Zoom.
Hello, Gino. Thanks for your participation.
So if we are all ready, we can start.
Yes, I believe everyone will come just a couple more minutes later, but I believe we can start. I would like to firstly welcome everyone for this great webinar and thank you for your time to join us. We are having this webinar which is called actually the technological advancements in waste management, increasing productivity. My name is Ecem. I'm the partnership manager of Evreka, and today I will actually be the moderator of this great webinar. We are here with Antonis Mavropoulos from D-Waste. It would be great to hear some introductory words from Antonis about himself.
Thank you very much for the introduction.
Yeah, thanks. We have Mark Abbas from AMCS. It would be great to hear himself too.
I unmute myself. Hello, my name is Mark. Very happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Great. And we have Umutcan Duman and Imran Karala from Evreka, and I will let them to introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here. Very excited to be together with you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar that we are all hosting. Thank you for your attention and the time.
Great. Thanks a lot for all your introductions. During this webinar, if any of our participants has any questions, please feel free to write through the chat box. And we might have some time in the end to answer your questions. And now, without further ado, I will turn time over to start the webinar. And now Antonis will take the stage with his introduction.
Thank you very much, Ecem. I have prepared a couple of slides in order to facilitate the discussion. So allow me to start with them. First of all, I have to say that I'm very happy for this discussion because Industry 4.0 is transforming already waste management, and I'm a strong advocate of the need to follow up closely the transformation. And today you have a couple of great speakers and practitioners, not only visionaries, but practitioners also in the field. And I think in this hour that is in front of us, we can make a very fruitful and useful discussion for everyone that wants to deal better on how technological advancements relevant to Industry 4.0 are increasing the productivity in waste management. I'm not going to go into deep details. I just want to put a framework for the discussion, and I'm sure in the discussion later, a lot of things will come up. So let me start with this. I'm going to speak about a little bit of the background of the discussion, the starting points, a few thoughts on productivity, and then an outline of how Industry 4.0 is related to waste management. But before that, let me tell something about Eureka, which is the name of one of the partners of today's event. Eureka is a Greek word, and it is discussed widely that it's a word that Archimedes, the famous scholar, philosopher, and mathematician, used to say every time he was inventing something. So this guy invented a lot of mathematical and principles for the physical world, and famously, Eureka was what he said when he realized that the volume of the water that is displaced by a body is equal to the volume of the body. And here is a relevant sketch of that. Now, why I said that, I had my own Eureka moment back in 2012 when I realized that what is coming from the fourth industrial revolution and the wave of digitalization is going to reshape completely what we call waste management. And after this Eureka moment, I started to adapt my work to this field. So I think till now, speaking on a personal level, I'm not a practitioner like our speakers, but I worked a lot on understanding how Industry 4.0 transforms the waste sector. And thanks to the cooperation with a lot of people, we published this report on October 2019. And then after that, I realized that it goes much beyond the waste sector. It affects really what we call circular economy. And a few months ago, I published this book from Wiley Publications with the cooperation of ISVA and with my good friend and co-author Anders Vagge Nielsen. So what I want to say is that a lot of things I will share with you are based on my studies on that. But I'm pretty sure that you will hear much more practical and tangible suggestions from my colleagues later. Now, what is the starting point of this discussion? How we can frame it? Well, I think that the starting point goes like this. We have what we call the policy trend of circular economy that is evolving at the same time with Industry 4.0. And the big challenge is, are we going to be able to merge Industry 4.0 with circular economy? So for the first time in our world, we are going to have an industrial revolution without more pollution, without more resource depletion, and without more negative impacts, or circular economy and Industry 4.0 will be two parallel trends which will result in one more business as usual industrial revolution that will really push the planet very close to its limits. If this is the question, then from my side, the ambition of the waste management sector, the ambition of the industry, although it is too small, as you see here, comparing in terms of its economic size, comparing to the others, our ambition is to act as catalysts. And I think this is the starting point, because I strongly believe, and I have written about it many times, that waste management can be a perfect example where the application of digitalization and Industry 4.0 can create positive outcomes. Positive not only for productivity, but also for the society, for the environment. I really believe that we can act as industry, as catalysts, to demonstrate that merging Industry 4.0 and technological advances with circular economy, we are able to deliver a better planet for all of us. And this is a huge ambition, but I think it's really documented by all the facts we have around us. Now, let's go a little bit deeper to our discussion. We are talking about productivity today. Productivity, broadly speaking, is determined by two sets of factors. One are things that are under our control, under business control, under the control of the management. Let's say internal organization things, management things. Second, productivity, we know well, is also determined by aspects of the operating environment, let's say external factors. Now, today, we're going to focus a lot on aspects relevant to the first set of factors, internal factors or levers. However, we all know that on the long term, in order to gain the most important benefits by the growth of productivity due to Industry 4.0, we have to find also the relevant operating environments, which means we need government policies that will enable Industry 4.0 and provide the proper environment for this to flourish. Now, in this report, on the report How Industry 4.0 Transforms the Waste Sector, we have this nice graph that shows, I'm not going to go in details, that Industry 4.0 really transforms all the phases of the life cycle of the waste, from the waste generation to waste storage, waste collection, waste treatment, waste disposal, and waste prevention. Now, how does Industry 4.0 transforms that? We are going to talk about it during the panel discussion, but in principle, this happens through the enablers of Industry 4.0. And here are some stuff that we become more and more familiar. We find out more and more new applications day by day, and we are trying to integrate them in our waste management operations, starting from RFID tags and cards and mobile readers, going to GPS trackers, going then to industrial robots and material scanners, level sensors that we use so much in smart bins, other type of sensors, fire sensors, smart locks, connected weights, and of course mobile phones that give us for the first time the possibility to integrate citizens in one unique environment with our trucks, our bins, and material cycles. This is what we call the enablers of industry that Industry 4.0 provides to waste management. And they result in a lot of cyber-physical systems in waste management. With some of them, we are already familiar. As an example, we are all familiar, or if not all, a lot of us familiar with the concept of smart trucks that are equipped with geosensors, communication systems, connected weights, and RFID scanners. More and more parts of the world, they become familiar with smart containers supported by smart locks and level sensors. Either they are underground or overground. Vacuum systems are also becoming more clever, more sophisticated, supported by smart locks, level sensors, and automated systems for transportation. And of course, we have the right of robotic sorting plants that are capable to deliver better better separation of materials in many cases than human beings, and much faster, supported by screeners, conveyor belts, sensors, and industrial robots. Last but not least, we have a plethora of new reverse vending machines that recognize products using proper sensors, and they also sort them. So, in brief, what we have is a new industrial revolution that will transform the whole way we produce things. And this industrial revolution has several enablers that change waste management, and this results in the emergence of new cyber-physical systems in waste management. A lot of them are already in place, a lot of them are already working together, a lot of them will appear, and I'm sure the new ones will be much more clever and smart than the ones you already have. Now, going back now to our question on productivity. What determines productivity? One of my favorite reports on the subject is AMCS Digital Transformation Barometer, and I have read many times the one that was published in 2018. So if you see in this report the answer to the question, how would you rate your organization on digital transformation, then you will find out that there are 5 different factors that affect the digital transformation. It's leadership and culture, it's the possibility to change the whole value chain, the engagement of employees, the business intelligence, and the actual new technologies in use, which means a digital transformation to increase productivity is not a matter just of technologies. I would say that the most important elements are related to management and human culture. I would say the most important elements of it is to understand needs, provide vision, leadership, and employee engagement. And I'm pretty sure that our speakers will speak much more about that. Now, taking consideration of this, I think that I would like to guide you in this graph. This is the Gartner graph about how our expectations from new technologies are changing by time. So when I started to deal with fourth industrial revolution in 2012, I think after 2 years, around 2014, 2015, I arrived to the peak of my personal expectations of that. Then I start to demystify it. I start to understand that all these technological miracles will go through the filters of human activities, through companies, through governments, through poverty, through social relationships. And then I face, by 2016, the trough of disillusionment. But now I'm more optimistic because I'm seeing things growing. I'm seeing things getting better slowly, but on a stable way. And I think that we are far away from the plateau of productivity. I think we are right now almost here. So I believe in the next 5 to 10 years, we will see a serious increase in productivity in any way we can define it. Now, a key issue that is relevant to Industry 4.0 is artificial intelligence. Now, it's a very widely discussed practice to improve industrial operations, what we call learning by doing, or LBD. What you can see here is from a factory that manufactures cars, what is the learning by doing practice in different weeks. Now, what you see with this dotted line is the minimum improvement expected just because we will support learning by doing by artificial intelligence, and we will fill the factory with much more sensors than today. So there is clear a benefit which is between those two lines, and this benefit, I think, in the case of waste sector, is much more broad and much more important than that. So having said that as an initial concept, I want to finish with this one. You know, if you are an entity that manages waste, then you have to do all these different activities. And somehow this creates a huge complexity. What is the situation in many waste management companies, but also public bodies that manage waste, is that they have a different software for each one of these activities. Now, this creates a huge challenge to integrate them. And to move from complexity to simplicity, integration becomes the key factor. Experience says that integration is in many cases much more difficult than adopting a unique solution and removing the old softwares for a new one. But this is something that we really face this period in Europe in many cases. I'm pretty sure that this is a big barrier and one of the biggest problems to increase the productivity faster than it goes. So having said that, I would like to thank you for your attendance, and let's start the panel discussion.
Great. Thanks for this great introduction, Antonis. I believe now we can move on with the panel discussion we will have today. Before starting, I would just like to remind all of our panelists that we will have 5 minutes or so for answering these questions. So I will be, interrupting you even if I don't want to when we get a little bit over 5 minutes. So just keep in mind. With the question firstly for Antonis, and I would like to ask you, how do you see the future of recycling and also recovery and the impact of technology on those?
Okay. I think that the future of resource recovery is much more bright under a certain view and much more difficult under another. Let me start with the bright side of the moon. I think that digitalization and the fourth industrial revolution advances resource recovery with three major ways. First, we have big data systems for all the equipment and service users. They are the future of for any product. These big data systems are allowing us to monitor and manage better the fate of each material. They are allowing us to identify in depth how effective and how efficient are everything, all the products we manage, and they also allow us to connect with the users. So connecting with the users, we have the possibility to know every time where exactly is its equipment, how much hazardous waste it has inside, and apply extended producer responsibility techniques to collect the waste and in a safe way and treat it. The second way that the Industry 4.0 advances resource recovery is simply through robotic recovery, robotic recycling. We have a huge rise of a lot of commercial robots, and I'm pretty sure we are just at the beginning. These robots will substitute people that are very close in contact with waste, but they will create new positions for labor for people that will manage the robots, not the materials. So we are not going to have less jobs necessarily. What we are going to have is less contact with the waste, less unhealthy and unsafe conditions. And the third way that artificial intelligence advances resource recovery is through the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things, for which a lot of the most complicated equipment is always connected, our TVs, our mobile phones, our computers, with all the hazardous materials they have. The Internet of Things provides the opportunity for preventive maintenance. So provides the opportunity to increase the life cycle of products in cooperation with the companies. So it's a serious waste prevention initiative that we didn't have it before. So the bright side of the moon is that by combining big data for the service users, robotic recycling, and Internet of Things for waste prevention, we can advance resource recovery. The dark side of the moon is the fact that we're going to have a huge amount of new types of waste, starting with a tsunami of e-waste. Between the dark and the bright side of the moon, I hope the waste management industry will find a way to find the right balance, so the overall footprint of the fourth industrial revolution will be positive for the planet.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your answers and ideas. Well, we have another question for Umutcan, and I would like to ask Umutcan, what other potential growth can you foresee through the use of collecting data?
Thanks a lot, Ecem. And I would like to also thank Antonis, because it was a great introduction to the big picture of waste management from the technology side, from the operations side, and the productivity, different productivity aspects of the sector. And he mentioned like dark side and the bright side of the moons. This is like a good synonym, I would say. And I believe the most important positive impact of technology is the availability of the flexibility, because we need to be agile. We need to be flexible to take actions on the day-to-day operations or sometimes like mid-term or long-term tactics and strategies in order to manage the resources and the waste generated all around the world. Of course, these are like the first things, like, cost reduction, health and safety issues of all employees in the waste management sector. But I believe the most, like, the emerging benefits of the technology in the sector is the technology ensures the sustainability of the businesses and flexibility and agility of the operations, because we have seen the effect of COVID, and everything has been changed. All the operations, all the traveling issues and everything, and the waste types and amounts has been changed as well. And all our customers in different geographies, like from Norway to Singapore, from Canada to South Africa, they needed to take quick actions. And the only way is to use these kind of technologies, to have the real-time data, to have the decision support systems. So Antonis has mentioned, and I'm sure Mark will mention these kind of topics as well. This is the most important thing. And one other thing is return on investment calculation, because it is not a simple thing to calculate what are the returns, because we have different aspects here too. We have the first, maybe the most important for the private companies is the financial return. But on the other side, we have operational difficulties and complexities, and we have environmental impact, which is really valuable, and which we see the increase in the importance of it from the citizens' point of view, from the politicians' point of view. So we are in the good era, I would say. The importance of environmental impacts are shining currently. So this is nice for all of us, but of course there is a bad effect as well. We have to unfortunately take this seriously, because it is getting day by day much more serious. And I would like to mention one more thing here. Antonis mentioned, like, complexity to simplicity. The integration is quite important. Like years ago, so we had, the heavy technologies, heavy softwares, but luckily today we have cloud infrastructures, which enables all of us to be agile, to be easy to integrate. So previously it was like, you have this solution and you have to do it in this way. But today we have this flexible technological advancements, enables us and enables our customers, enables even citizens and their customers as well to be integrated. So I believe there is this, I would say, need to collaborate. Even like the competitors, even like the different parties, we need to collaborate, we need to integrate, and we need to put our best practices on the table in order to create best of best sustainable world. Thanks.
Great. Thank you for your contribution, Umutcan. We have another question for Mark. How do you evaluate the public perception of the smart transition of the waste sector? For example, how will the citizens be impacted of this?
Yeah, thank you, Orçun. And just to comment on the previous two speakers, I've had the pleasure to work in digitalization in this industry for for almost 25 years, celebrating that in May this year. And I can second everything that the two speakers said, that the integration is going to be the biggest challenge of all these solutions. I've seen so many projects start up with, a new technology being implemented and just looking at the siloed solution, not thinking about the whole picture. And it did what it should do, but it didn't deliver the value it was expected to deliver. So I can only say that has slowed this industry down. And that brings me to your question. So what's the perception of the citizen? Well, first of all, we have to be mindful that on this call, we probably have people from around the globe. So we might have people from Africa, from Western countries, from all over the world. So we predominantly have worked so far in North America, in Europe, and Australia, and New Zealand. And there, I think the perception of the public perception of the transition, the technology transition of the sector, is that it's unbelievably slow. Okay, that's from a citizen perspective. Imagine, you know, when you buy something from Amazon and you want to get something delivered, you get a variety of options to choose from. You want it tomorrow, you want it today. What do you want? You can price it. You will get notified by a status change. It's now in transit. It's now, you know, and we will arrive like 30 minutes before they arrive. They will show you things like that. A citizen is expecting nothing less from their waste provider in the public sector, and cannot understand why that is such a problem and why that is not there. And when you look into the reason why it's not there, is because of this lack of integration, and also from the scattered IT landscapes. Waste companies in the public and the private sector have traditionally bought multiple solutions, tried to glue them together. I must have done 1,000 integrations between different systems, between onboard computers and ERP systems, between route optimization software and backend systems, or web portals to, you know, and that is the hardest thing to do. It looks simple, and when you take it from one angle, you can create a great website, but when it's not integrated to the backend of your data, you're having troubles. And I'm sure the other speakers can confirm that. So citizens will expect nothing less from a waste company than excellent customer service and just-in-time delivery of their services. Now, a few things particular, probably also to the circular economy on how citizens look at this and look at technology evolution. I believe that with the circular economies, that citizens will eventually get paid for their recyclables through a formalized process. Okay, so that means that things like material grading, what is actually the value of the stuff that you're actually handing over to what I call more reverse logistics now, rather than waste collection. So grading that material will have to take place on the spot where it's handed over to the waste hauler or the logistic company. So in this area, for instance, we are running some pilot projects in North America at the moment, working with Microsoft, and where we use camera technology on the hoppers. So I didn't think it was in your slides, Antonis, but I'm sure you mentioned it in your report. So optical recognition as well could help quickly to determine, you know, the contamination of a specific of a bin or whatsoever. So we use that technology then to learn and to improve the algorithm. So there's a lot of data behind the scenes working on making sure we qualify, we grade the material properly, and then get the citizen, in this case, paid. Then, of course, Antonis mentioned it, and I think it's already maybe a commodity at the moment in some of the Western companies, is that the bins are, I believe that all the bins will be equipped some way or another with a filling grade sensor, because it simply makes sense to only pick up a bin when it's completely full, right? So that is now very affordable. The downside again is if you're just buying a system that can recognize the volume and can create your routes to collect it, you're missing out a lot of other stuff around that process. You know, you need to get your weights, you need to get your driver tickets out there, you may have some legal documents that you have to carry on, and so on and so on and so on. So I think technologies we'll see in that space is that these algorithms that determine the must goes and the can goes of these containers will get smarter and smarter. And that's what we also do. We create things like self-learning optimization engine that constantly not only looks at filling grade, but looks at other data as well, big data sources like weather forecasts or other historical data that we collected about road networks and so on, to determine what is the best moment to arrive to a container. And that will help you as a citizen, of course, because you know you have a much shorter time before you request a service and when it's actually being executed. Then you see some other IoT devices, which are, you know, like service me now buttons, those buttons that you press, let's say, and then that triggers an action for a waste hauler. You will see more and more of those things get into play. Not sure if these will all make it to a model, to maturity, but one of the things you will get is you will get offered time slots of when you get your services, and you know, your waste hauler can probably give you different prices, different options and different prices when you want to get serviced based on the density of the route, for instance. So finally, I think as a citizen, as you would expect in this day and age, is that the whole process around this is handled completely digitally, including your payments, your personalized experience online in portals, and then having access to all of that data that is relevant to you. I think those are probably the 4 key things that citizens will see as an impact of this technology change.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, we have another question for Imran. Have you observed or faced barriers when implementing the smart waste transition?
Well, it's a good question. Thank you. And I want to start with a thank you to all our other panelists, because they have already contributed to the answer of this question. And the answer is actually simply yes, but there are multiple aspects of it. So there are quite a number of reasons behind this obstacles. For example, in this time of pandemic, there are people resisting, setting barriers between them and technology, and resisting to the online meetings, for example. So of course, in this large industry, waste management industry, there are people and there are barriers between them with the smart waste transition. But as Antonis has started, and as the demo of our webinar stated, for the sake of the earth we live on, we need the efficiency increased, we need the productivity increased, so that we can ensure the next generations can live in a world that can sustain their needs. So let me summarize the barriers in front of the smart waste transition. So as mentioned before, the first one could be stated as the lack of awareness. So basically people don't know about what technology can provide to them, so they feel no need. They choose to focus on the short-term sustainability, maybe short-term goals. They choose to stay away from the smart technologies, and they suffer from the lack of vision, and maybe they don't have the innovation culture. But there's no judgment here, because people don't know what they need and what they can achieve through the smart waste transition. And at this point, maybe we can check what can force them to be aware of the bringings of the smart waste transition. And at this point, smart waste management is a vital service for a clean and healthy environment. It's like breathing, it's a must, and hence it's driven mainly by the regulations. But unfortunately, we don't see the awareness and the regulations and the laws in terms of the smart waste transition. And at this point, I would like to mention the Circular Economy Action Plan, which is released exactly 1 year ago today, and it's a great step driving innovation and digitalization in waste industry. It leads for a better environment. It promotes the smart transition to achieve efficiency in the waste management practices, and there is lack of awareness as a barrier to the smart waste transition, and businesses and public have a really way to go and to meet the goals. And other than awareness, there might be some barriers for implementation as well, which was also previously mentioned, that there might be some economical barriers, but thanks to advancements in technology each and every day, leading more attainable solutions, and economical barriers can be said to be removed in the future, hopefully. And other than that, for the smart waste transition, the barrier could be the old waste, the solutions that are introduced to the market previously. For example, we can make it today's example. For example, we are all thankful for the Spotify, and we have all used Winamp back then, and it was great back then. But today, it's clear that no one wants to use it today, because Winamp was bulky. And like that, old ways might be difficult to implement. As you mentioned, there are so many aspects of the waste management. There are so many tools, and there are so many flows. So the previous solutions might be insufficient to provide full coverage, or incompatible with other solutions. They might not be providing a single solution, or at a very basic level, they might not have a pleasing experience. They might provide ugly interfaces. They might be hard to use. By means of that, people might be afraid of smart waste transition due to their past experiences and hesitating to take action for the smart waste transition. But today, Spotify is on the market and it's easy to use. It has a cool interface and it is fast. And last but not the least, another barrier could be the commitments. So in his slide, Antonis has mentioned that some people are feeling that their transition is not up to date. And one of the reasons behind is that mostly existing contractual commitments are quite long, like 5 to 10 years. And yet 8 years ago, many things we own and use today were not even being discussed. So similarly, there exist solutions in the waste market. People are familiar with them, but they are not facilitating the smart waste transition. And we have the long commitments with the existing solutions. So even though it is realized, there are very long contractual commitments, and it is holding people from the transition to the newer solutions. And that's why, even though people know that there are solutions on the market, they are not able to use it. And and to give an example from our industry, as Eureka, we are working with cross-border waste management companies, and the adaptation is quite low in central regions because they have fallen behind the technology. They are still using the old technology and they are committed to that. But on the younger regions like LATAM or APEC, we are witnessing very successful implementation because adaptation is easier and there is no previous commitment there. And they are looking for the solution answering their today's needs. So I'm aware I'm talking a little bit much, but it's a really heart of the smart waste transition, because what's keeping us from the smart waste transition is the barriers. And there might be many other reasons in addition to what I propose and what other panelists propose and they will propose. There are many studies in the literature, in fact. So to sum up, the world is growing for efficiency. Smart waste management practices are all around us, and everyday new solutions are taking their place on the market. But of course, there are some barriers. People might be suffering from lack of awareness. People might be afraid of change. People might be bound to the not so smart solutions they have today, or they might be looking for the right solution but not able to find it because it needs dedication as well. But I'm sure all will be overcome and smart waste transition will be achieved all around the world.
Hey, Jim, can I respond to that? Because do I have
I
1
believe,
minute?
yeah, we have
Because
one minute, yeah.
It's spot on, I think, what Imran said there. And actually, we, as Antonis mentioned, we did research around on 2 areas. So it's the awareness. So to what extent are organizations aware of new technology and how they apply it? And actually, they weren't scoring too bad in our survey, like 6.5, 6.6 on a scale from 1 to 10. But then where the biggest problem was the ability to execute. Can you actually execute on that technology? And one of the key drivers, and you mentioned a few there, very good ones as well, but I see one big change is there on the leadership side. What needs to change in these companies that they have leaders who actually have a technology vision. And you see now that the largest waste companies of this world start to bring in digital transformation officers as part, not having an IT manager or a finance CFO, kind of having a finance IT director, and he's doing the software for you guys, the technology. No, there's somebody with strategy that is part of the senior management team of these companies. And that is really in those companies, and you mentioned APEC, I see that in those kind of locations, there you see more leadership there with a future vision, I think, on technology and how it can change. And that is, I think, is very key for the attendees here to understand that if that's where it all starts, like a proper vision that technology can actually drive not just efficiency, but also, hence our tagline, digital waste are also there to a cleaner world, right? We have to get this planet a little bit greener than when I entered the planet here. Okay, thanks.
Well, we can actually stay on you, Mark, because this question is for you. I wonder if you have seen or faced any rejection from any internal workers when implementing these technologies to increase the productivity. And if you have ever faced this rejection, how did you deal with that?
No, there's no objections at all. No, that's of course very much so. So we've had a lot of rejection from internal workers, but also from individuals, but also from unions. When you start introducing technology into a truck, the unions get awake and start having an opinion on that. And in the beginning, you try to fight it and try to convince these people, but look, I think it makes a difference whether we are dealing with a commercial public company or a municipality. That differs, right? Because when you work with a commercial company, headcount reduction might be a key driver to improve their efficiency. But for a municipality, it's different, right? That you don't want to. You want to have, like Antonis said, you will have new jobs. Okay, so one of the things we do to overcome this is that during what we call the discovery stage, that is even before we start a project, we work closely with all stakeholders to build a business case, not just look at it from a financial side or the environmental impact, but also for the change management side of things. So we work with them on a case that not only looks realistically on paper, but also is achievable and has buy-in from all these stakeholders. That really helps if you bring them along the journey while you're doing it. And then you discuss the criteria of success from all different angles. And one key thing is in when you implement new technology, I also think that, and that also goes back to leadership, that we have to implement metrics around our success when we start projects like this. We as technology providers have done a poor job in the past with 60% of the projects, either take too long, costly, or delayed, or that's painful. But we haven't really been good on focusing on the results. So I think, and that doesn't always have to be money. Okay, so there's other KPIs that you can measure, right? So, and then of course, change management is a key element. When you run projects like this, roles will change, processes will change. Okay, when you do this, understand that, be open for it. And it's very important to constantly be aware of it and manage the expectations of every worker around you. And as I said, it's not always about the headcount. So maybe one example there for a municipal waste collection company that we work for. We have our route optimization engine, so we could easily take out 2 or 3 trucks. And that means also maybe 2 or 3 jobs could take out. But this municipality said, no, we do it differently. So can you have the algorithm do an equal spread of the business, so of the workload over the whole team, so everyone arrives at the same time back in the canteen, and then we have time to collectively to do something else with the team, and so then you increase productivity because you got hands available there. You don't reduce jobs, but you find another purpose for it. So those are the key things I think that we've seen, the barriers and the pushbacks, and how we overcome those.
Great, thank you so much, Mark. Well, our other question is for Antonis. I wonder if Antonis have ever observed any contribution of smart waste transition in the name of zero waste and also environment. We can't hear you. You're on mute.
I want to grab the opportunity also to make some comments on some of the questions I saw. So I will go very fast. Can I share my screen? Okay, I can. Let me start with this. There is a question about how all this discussion on productivity links with human behavior. And this is very relevant to your question right now. I mean, listen, I don't know any place where zero waste become a reality just because we digitize the system. But I know many places where zero waste is not achievable without a full digitalization of the system. Why I'm saying this? Changing in human behavior is the first core element for positive benefits from digitalization. And if you see here, which is actually how we portray social change for climate change, you will see that out of the 6 elements that we have to change, only 2 of them are directly linked with technologies. All the others are relevant to the changes required for governance, legislation, people, norms and values, education and stuff like this. So yes, it's true that technology itself is not enough to change behavior, to deliver zero waste. But on the other side, it's true that technology can really advance, make it faster and more efficient than yesterday. Then there was also another question about productivity, which is also very relevant to what we discussed. I have many cases use an example about that. Here is the price for lighting per million lumen hours as it was evolved in UK in British pounds. So you can see that in 700 years, we went for 40,000 pounds per million lumen hours to very close to zero. This is a huge increase in productivity by 4 or 5 for some people industrial revolutions. At the same time, what happened is that we increased in an order of 1 million how many lighting we need. So yes, if we have a problem, a behavior like this, that we will substantially increase the productivity on the way we manage or recover waste, but then the increase in waste per generation will be much higher, we will have a problem. And this brings me to another issue. Industry 4.0 does not only increase the productivity in waste management, but for the first time, it gives us the opportunity to measure negative productivity. At the end, the more waste we have, the less is the productivity in the way we use our resources. With Industry 4.0, with Internet of Things, with the new waste prevention techniques, we are able to reduce waste generated not only per unit, but also in total. We are able to have robots not only to recover faster recyclables, but also to repair. And these clearly are two different dimensions of productivity. Today we are discussing for the productivity in waste management, but there is a lot of discussion about the productivity required to prevent waste. And I would like to finish with this. You know, I'm used to say circular economy will be either dead or fully digitalized. Why is this? Because the more we move to circular economy, the more we increase the complexity of the different cycles of materials and energy. And the more complex are the cycles, the more interconnections are between them. And we are obliged to digitalize the system because otherwise we are not able to monitor it. Let me give you an example from my country, Greece now. We are moving from 2 streams of waste management, a recyclable and a residual stream, to 6, bio-waste, metal, paper, glass, plastics, and residual. This movement from 2 streams to 6 is impossible to be manageable for the authorities if we don't digitize the system. So either we'll digitize it and achieve it with a controlled cost, or it will never happen. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Antonis. We are closing with with a question to Umutcan. I would like to ask Umutcan the main takeaways that you would like to give to our attendees today in terms of what we and all the panelists have spoken.
So thanks a lot, Ecem, and all the contribution from other speakers. It was really beneficial for myself and hopefully for all the listeners. So we have learned, I took many notes already. So it's nice to be here. And I summarize what I heard in, I would say, 3 points. Antonis has mentioned lastly, so the technological advancements is a must, but it's not enough to reach our goal, to reach the zero waste approach, to reach the sustainable environment. And also Mark has mentioned a similar approach too. This is really important. I would say there are 3 main takeaways from this webinar. One is, I would say, let's say, if we have like different puzzle pieces from different puzzle boxes, then it is really difficult to have one single big picture. That's why we need to change our perspective to have a big picture. That's why we need like integrations and collaborations in order to create fully working technological environment for the waste operations. So this is really important, and everyone has mentioned the same approach. And the other thing is really important is dedication and commitment from the decision makers. This is not only companies, this is not only local governments, all the stakeholders has to commit, has to dedicate some time and some effort and some financial resources in order to reach and in order to be ensured the successful stories. That's why everyone has its own responsibilities, and we need to be a little patient to reach that goals, because it is not going to be easy. It haven't been easy anyway, so it takes time and effort. And the third one is engagement. And I have seen many questions coming from all the listeners, the engagement of different stakeholders. And every speaker has mentioned those, like companies, local governments, financial authorities, citizens, technological companies, and also Mark mentioned that they are working with Microsoft in order to, increase their abilities to understand different data streams. We are doing the similar thing with Oracle as well. So we need to bring these kind of technological giants to this market as well, because they have been working in different areas and they don't have specific solutions for this sector, which is actually really important, which is essential sector for all the people, all the world. That's why we need to get their attention here, and we need to use their abilities in order to advance the technological solutions here. So AMCS does the same and Eureka does the same. So this is really important to make the collaboration and integration, to make the commitment and dedication, and to engage all the stakeholders in order to achieve our goals. At the end of the day, we are living in the same world, and hopefully we can do, as Mark mentioned, a little cleaner, a little greener than the previous years.
Great, thank you so much. Well, actually, for within our discussions as the panelists, I would like to take some questions from the question box that we have. We have some very amazing and great contributions as questions. It can be a free response for you. Piotr is asking, does IoT and AI increase the waste coming from electrical and electronic equipments? And he's actually suggesting that currently it is the fastest growing waste stream, and the solutions must be in ensuring durability and repairability of electronics that can be a part of Industry 4.0.
Actually,
his question is basically, does IoT and AI increase the waste coming from electronic equipment?
In principle, yes. And this is what I explained. The question is if we can find a break-even point that the increase from that is worthy for the decrease of the rest.
We have another question from Mumtaz. This is actually a recent topic. He's saying that I was curious about your views on mask disposal management. Do you see a need for smart waste management separately on masks too?
Maybe I can comment on that. I understand that's a big issue at the moment, of course, the mass recycling. I don't see that we should treat it like any other like hazardous kind of waste stream and so on. So yes, we should look at, can we do that smarter, but not probably different than any other waste stream that we've been discussing so far. I mean, the volumes is probably not the challenge.
Yeah, I agree with Mark, by the way.
And we have another question for, can developed countries leapfrog, or can we have a big brother industrial 4.0?
A small comment from me. I said from the very beginning that when we talk about productivity, we have the internal and the external factors. So there is no reason to assume that developing countries cannot leapfrog under the condition that they are able to create the external factors required. And I would say that this industrial revolution, the fourth one, goes faster. It's more geographically dispersed than the previous one. And it starts from places like China that have another sphere of influence than the traditional Western ones. Now, this is not enough to say that developing countries will run fast on that. Actually, there is a lot of forecast that the fourth industrial revolution might increase the gap between developed and developing countries. But this is up to us to rebalance it. So again, technology itself cannot change the world. It's human behavior, policies, governance, legislation, and global coordination that can do it.
Here I can add some more point on Antonis. So there is this example of mobile payment as well. It's not from the waste management sector, but the mobile payment penetration in Africa is way higher than penetration in Europe, because there is a credit card and different bank structures in Europe, and there was not in Africa that much. So there is an easy to adapt to mobile payments. So sometimes we see a disadvantage, and this disadvantage can be an advantage for different adaptation, technological adaptations as well. So as Antonis mentioned, it's up to us if we decide to stay in the disadvantageous position or stay in the advantageous position.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I would like to thank Imran, Mark, Antonis, and Umutcan separately for being the panelists of this great discussion and this webinar. And I would like to thank all the attendees for taking their time for being here. It was a pleasure being here with you today. And I hope to see everyone again in another webinar or in another event, I can say. Thanks for all the contributions, and thanks for all the time you've taken for today.
Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure. Have a good day.
Have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Nice day.